My husband said, "Don't come to my office party. It'll be awkward with my ex there." I said, "Of course, I'll stay home." What he didn't know was that I was the new regional director. His boss had invited me as a surprise guest, and when I walked in and he saw who was sitting next to me, his face went pale. "I'm Scarlett, 35, and I've been married to Ryan for 7 years. We met in college, married young, and I thought we had the kind of relationship people envied. I was wrong." 3 weeks ago, Ryan came home from work acting strange. Not suspicious. Strange. Excited. Distracted. He was on his phone more than usual, smiling at texts. When I asked what was going on, he'd just say, "Work stuff," and change the subject. I didn't think much of it. Ryan worked in marketing for a mid-sized pharmaceutical company, and their annual holiday party was coming up. He'd always invited me before. Then last Tuesday, he dropped it on me while I was making dinner. "Hey, so about the office party on Friday," he started, leaning against the kitchen counter. "I think maybe you should skip it this year." I looked up from chopping vegetables. "What? Why?" He hesitated, which should have been my first red flag. "It's just Maya is going to be there. Maya, my ex-girlfriend from before we met. We dated for 2 years in our early 20s, and it ended amicably when she moved to Seattle for work. I've never seen her since." "Okay," I said slowly. "And I just think it would be awkward," Ryan continued. "You know how exes at work events can be. I don't want any weird tension ruining the night. It's better if I just go have a drink with the team and come home early." Something in his tone bothered me, but I couldn't place it. "Ryan, we've been married 7 years. Why would I care about some woman you dated over a decade ago?" "You wouldn't, but she might. She's been acting kind of nostalgic lately, asking about my life, commenting on old photos on LinkedIn. I just want to avoid drama." I set down the knife. "If she's making you uncomfortable, maybe you should report it to HR." "It's not that serious," he said quickly. "I just think it's easier if you're not there. Please, Scarlett, just this once." Like an idiot, I agreed. I trusted him. In 7 years of marriage, he'd never given me a reason not to. What Ryan didn't know was that 2 months earlier, I'd been quietly headhunted for a regional director position at his company. The offer came through a recruiter, and I'd gone through 3 rounds of interviews with corporate, not the local office where Ryan worked. I'd accepted the position and was scheduled to start the Monday after the holiday party. The CEO himself had invited me to the party as a surprise introduction to the regional staff, including Ryan's department. I hadn't told him yet because I wanted it to be a surprise. I thought he'd be thrilled. I should mention I'd been working remotely for a tech consulting firm for the past 4 years, so Ryan had no idea what my day-to-day looked like anymore. He knew I was interviewing locally, but I'd kept details vague because I didn't want to get his hopes up. Friday night arrived. Ryan spent 2 hours getting ready, which wasn't unusual, but he was more meticulous than normal. He wore a black suit I'd never seen before, not inappropriate, but definitely sharper than his usual work attire. He kissed me goodbye, told me not to wait up, and left. I waited an hour, then got dressed myself. I had kept the regional director thing completely under wraps, even from friends. The CEO had sent a car for me, and I arrived at the hotel venue around 8:30. The party was in full swing. The CEO, Richard Chen, spotted me and waved me over to the executive table. That's when I saw her, Maya, sitting right where Richard gestured for me to sit. Richard introduced us, explaining Maya was the new VP of Sales, just promoted last month after relocating back from Seattle. Maya shook my hand, completely unaware of who I was. Why would she be? Ryan and I had different last names. He'd kept his for professional reasons. "Scarlett's going to be our new regional director for operations," Richard announced. "Starts Monday. Thought it would be good for her to meet everyone tonight." Maya smiled. "Great to have you here. You're going to love the team. Really solid people." I made small talk while scanning the room for Ryan. I spotted him near the bar with a group of coworkers, laughing at something someone said. He hadn't seen me yet. Then Maya's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, smiled, actually smiled before typing a response. Something about the way she did it made my stomach turn. "Your husband here tonight?" Richard asked casually. "Divorced, actually," Maya said. 2 years now, but I'm working on something promising." She glanced toward the bar, and I followed her gaze straight to Ryan. My blood went cold. "Oh, yeah," Richard said, oblivious to my reaction. "Anyone I know?" Maya lowered her voice conspiratorially. "Let's just say I'm rekindling an old flame. We dated years ago before he got married. His wife barely pays attention at home. He's been receptive." I don't remember the next few seconds clearly. I remember my hands gripping the edge of the table. I remember Richard saying my name. I remember standing up. And then I remember walking toward the bar with Maya following behind me, still talking. Ryan saw me when I was about 10 feet away. His face didn't just go pale, it went white, pure, bloodless white. His drink slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. Scarlet. His voice was barely a whisper. Maya stopped mid-sentence when she realized where I was heading. Wait, do you know Ryan? I said calmly. I don't think you've met Maya. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You have? She was just telling me about the old flame she'd been rekindling. I turned to Maya, the woman chasing a married man with a tech wife working from home. I watched the realization hit her like a truck. Her eyes went wide, flicking between Ryan and me. No, she said. No, you're Scarlett. Regional Director Scarlett, I clarified. Your new boss's new boss, actually, starting Monday. Ryan's coworkers had gone silent, forming an accidental circle around us. Someone had turned down the music. Saturday morning, the text records came through. Apparently, I had a premium account, and they expedited it. I spent 3 hours reading through everything. It was worse than I thought. Ryan and Maya hadn't slept together yet, but they had planned to next weekend. Maya had booked a hotel room. Ryan had told her he'd be at a work conference. The messages were explicit about what they wanted to do. There were also messages about me. Ryan complaining that I was boring, that I'd let myself go, that I was more interested in video games than him. The gaming thing stung because I'd taken it up on weekends specifically to give him space. There were messages about finances too. Ryan telling Maya I made good money but didn't like to spend it on experiences. Maya promising to take him places, show him excitement. I'd been saving for a down payment on a bigger house. He knew this. We talked about starting a family next year. I forwarded the entire PDF to my email and my lawyer. Yes, I already had a lawyer. I'd called one Friday night. Sunday afternoon, Ryan showed up at my sister's house. My sister answered the door and told him I didn't want to see him. Ryan broke down crying on the porch, saying it was all a mistake, that he'd been confused, that he loved me. My sister went outside and told him to leave or she'd call the police. Monday morning, I showed up for my first day as regional director. HR had already heard about Friday night. Corporate moves fast when executives are involved. Maya had been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation into workplace conduct. Pursuing a married coworker violated ethics clauses, especially when it involved a superior and subordinate, which we technically now were. Ryan had called in sick. Richard pulled me aside before the morning meeting. I'm sorry about all this, Scarlett. If I'd known... You couldn't have, I said, but I appreciate the support. For what it's worth, we're documenting everything. This isn't the kind of culture we tolerate. The department meeting was awkward. Everyone knew small office gossip moved at light speed, but people stayed professional, focusing on Q4 goals and the transition plan. By Tuesday, Ryan had blown up my phone with over 100 messages. I blocked his number and communicated only through my lawyer. He'd moved back to his parents' house. His mother called me and actually apologized, saying she'd raised him better than this. Wednesday, Maya was terminated. Not because of the affair exactly, but because during the investigation, they found she'd been falsifying expense reports and billing personal travel to corporate. The affair had just triggered the deep dive into her activities. Maya called me from a random number Wednesday night, drunk, blaming me for ruining her life. I recorded the call and sent it to my lawyer. Thursday, I filed for divorce. Pennsylvania has a no-fault option, but I filed fault-based on adultery just to make it clean. My lawyer said the text records were more than sufficient evidence. Friday, 1 week after the party, Ryan showed up at my new office. Security called me before letting him in. I told them to send him away. He waited in the parking lot for 3 hours until I left work, then cornered me at my car. Scarlett, please, he said. He looked terrible, hair unwashed, dark circles under his eyes. I made a mistake. I was flattered by the attention for a moment. I felt invisible in our marriage, and Maya made you feel seen. I was working toward a promotion so I could be home more, I said quietly. I was saving money so we could buy a house and start a family. I played video games on weekends because you said you needed space. Everything you complained about to Maya was something I was doing for us or because you asked me to. I know, he sobbed. I know that now. I was stupid. I got caught up in the fantasy of it. You told her our marriage was over. You planned to cheat on me in a hotel next weekend. You complained about my body, my hobbies, my spending habits, all while I was trying to build a future for us. I'll do anything, he said. Therapy, counseling, whatever you want. I want a divorce, I said, and I want you to stop showing up places I am. Next time, I'm filing a restraining order. I got in my car and left him standing there. It's been 3 weeks since the party. Now the divorce is moving forward. Ryan's lawyer tried to argue for reconciliation mediation, but my lawyer shut it down with the text evidence. Ryan got moved to a different department at work. Corporate decided it was best for everyone. He's no longer under my regional oversight, which is good because I don't want to see him. Maya moved back to Seattle. Apparently, her ex-wife heard about why she got fired and revoked her visitation with their kids pending a custody review. Turns out she'd been cheating on her ex, too, which he'd suspected but never proven until now. I ran into one of Ryan's coworkers at a coffee shop yesterday. She apologized for not saying anything sooner, but apparently Ryan and Maya had been pretty obvious at work. Long lunches, closed-door conversations, lingering touches. Everyone assumed I knew and didn't care. That hurts in a different way. The humiliation of being the clueless spouse. My brother asked me last night if I felt guilty about Maya losing her job. I don't. She lied on expense reports. She pursued a married man while in a position of power. She would have slept with my husband if I hadn't walked into that party. Final update. It's been 2 months. The divorce was finalized last week. Ryan didn't contest it. He signed everything my lawyer put in front of him. I kept the house. Ryan took his car and half the savings. His lawyer argued he was entitled to it despite the adultery, and I didn't have the energy to fight. I make good money now anyway. The regional director position has been intense but rewarding. Ryan sent me a letter last week. Not through lawyers, an actual handwritten letter delivered to my office. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. He apologized, said he'd started therapy, and realized he'd been chasing validation in all the wrong places. He said he'd built up resentment over small things instead of communicating. He said Maya had love-bombed him with attention and promises, and he'd gotten swept up in feeling desired again. He ended it by saying he hoped I found someone who appreciated me the way I deserved, and that he'd always regret what he threw away. I filed the letter away. Maybe someday it'll matter to me. Right now it doesn't. I'm doing okay. Better than okay, actually. Work is good. I joined a gym, not because of Ryan's comments, but because I wanted to. I've been dating a little, nothing serious, taking my time. The regional director title has been good for me. Turns out I'm good at leadership. Richard mentioned a VP track in a year or two if I keep performing. Sometimes I think about that moment at the party when Ryan's face went pale, the instant he realized he'd been caught, that his careful planning had imploded, that the husband he'd written off was about to become his boss's boss. I don't take pleasure in his pain, but I won't lie. There was justice in that moment. Not revenge, just truth. He'd built this elaborate lie, and it collapsed in the worst possible way. I'm not bitter, I'm just done. Edit 1. A lot of people have asked if I knew something was wrong before the party. Honestly, no. Ryan was a good liar. The only thing that seemed off was him being on his phone more, but he worked in marketing. He was always on his phone. Edit 2. To answer the question about whether the job offer was real or if I took it just to catch him, it was completely real. The timing was pure coincidence. I'd been interviewing for 2 months before they made the offer. I had no idea about Maya until that night. Edit 3. Maya tried to add me on LinkedIn last week. I declined.